UPBOptionMillionaires.com. Welcome to Moldy Monday. S&P 500 futures are down over 1%, but they're off the lows here. They were down even more than that when we had the markets open for trade to start this week. Moldy Monday, what do I mean by that? It's like opening up that Chobani Greek yogurt and finding it all moldy. Well, the great thing about that is, and I've done it many times, you go in there with your spoon, you pull the mold out, and you just keep eating, and that's what S&P 500 futures are doing here. Would it not be ironic if this market gets into positive territory today as the moldy Greek crisis just gets thrown to the curb? We've been hearing about this such a long time, and if you look at the market from a long-term perspective, the Greek crisis has done this for the stock market, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Actually, it could be something bullish for this market, so keep an eye on that going forward as the moldy Greek crisis gets scooped up and thrown overboard, and we just continue up to record high stock prices. This is doing wonders for the VIX. Of course, this morning we're going to see a big spike for the volatility index. If you look back to last year, that's where I think we're going to end up, down at about the 10 level here for the VIX, which would imply a continued move up to record high stock price. But before we do that, we're probably going to see a spike back over 15, possibly over 16 before we resume to the downside, which is going to, again, imply higher stock prices. Also, some stocks that could pull back just today. Look at JP Morgan Chase bumping up against long-term trend line resistance. Came up to it last week, new all-time record highs. So it's going to see a nice little pullback here to start the week. Goldman Spectacular also out to new multi-year highs off the financial crisis. Something to keep an eye on for those two financial stocks. The financials have been off the chain, but again, the underside of this long-term trend line. Let's look at the TLT. Yeah, you know me, tracking the 20-year bond treasury ETF. You can see the move it's had to the downside after earlier this year. I was talking about this trend line, came down below support, came up to kiss it, and came back down again. We're getting a bounce here. It's up over 2% this morning pre-market, about an hour and a half before the market's going to open for trade here. I'm going to trade for some more continued downside. Once we get that bounce here this morning, I'm expecting a continuation down into the summer and fall to the 100th level here on TLT. Yeah, you know me. Biotech has been off the chain. That's something to keep an eye on here as we came back down to support. This week we can see back down to 350 level here for IBB. The biotech ETF also looking at Gilead Sciences. We see up to long-term trend line resistance. Looking for a move back down to 100. We'll see if that happens this week. And a stock possibly to get long. I've loved this one over the last couple of years. It's been a stair step to the downside. Came down to support last week. This is long-term trend line support. And actually, before it even bounced here, I was looking for a move down to this level. And I'm going to try it here. We'll see if this does indeed hold. If you look overseas, China has been crashing. That's not going to help Macau. But you see we're at long-term trend line support. Also this morning, Apple, positive analyst commentary. It's down under the 124 level. Wow. So if you pull the trend line across here, that comes to the support that we saw back in May. Something to keep an eye on. And of course, our friend GOOGL, Google, tried to break out last week. What a frustrating trade. This magnet at 550 is just something it just cannot break. It's the tractor beam. All right, UPB here, OptionMillionaires.com. I'll see you in a chat room. It's going to be an exciting day as the VIX rockets higher to start the week. S&P 500 futures are down over 1%. But guess what? It's going to come back, as it always has. The S&P 500 just too resilient here. You're going to scrape that moldy Greek yogurt out, and we're just going to chow on that good stuff. UPB here. Goodbye.